What's going on, everybody? Adachi here, and today we're going to be taking a look at Yeli, and I'm going to try and make it quick. You can see her ear poking out. We have a new rescue dog, so she's kind of glued to me, and I really have to keep an eye on her, so we'll try and go through this relatively quick. Just as the quick heads up, I don't know how I'm titling this or thumbnail or whatever, if it's clickbaity or not. The point is, the video is fucking wrong again. If you watched the trailer where they show off her skills and whatnot, they did change her, just like Hoyan, which I don't think I ever mentioned before. When I covered Hoyan before on the video, all that video information is fucking wrong. And it's wrong again, but luckily it was only one change that we've seen, which we will see. Actually, we'll just do it right here. I think it's just the defense break. It's actually a 50% chance, and I think I'm dying. In the video, it was only a 25% chance, so this at least makes it a lot more reliable. And originally, I thought it was really shit, but now at 50%, it's not too bad. But starting off with her S1, she is going to deal 240% damage. This is going to be all at cap, so 240% damage a one time with a 30% chance to steal one buff. And if we look here, the buff steal is not actually going to hit that 30% until you hit level 5, so that's pretty bad. Another bad thing about this skill here, as we get deeper into her kit, she's going to want to spam this a lot, so this is going to want to at least be ideally at level 4, so that's already 3 lattices right there for the S1. But looking at her S2 now, this is going to be a passive whenever she crits with an active skill, so this is going to be her S3 or her S1. She has a 100% chance at cap to additionally cast her S1 again on the main target, and then after each time she casts this, the chance to trigger again is going to be, what is it, reduces to C, 60% of the current chance, which is basically reducing by 40%. So at max, again, this is another 4 lattices right here, we're up to 7. This is going to be 100% on the first at cap. Then I have notes right here. It's 100% at first, and then the second trigger, so this would be the third hit of her passive, it would be 60% chance, and then after that 36%, then 21.6, then 12.96, and then 7. You'll actually high roll, I think, a lot more often than you would think. You're guaranteed at least the 2 hits at cap, and then the third hit is a 60% chance. That's not horrible, so she's actually going to be able to do this quite a few times here. And she is primarily going to be a single target damage dealer, so if we compare her to Deeding's ult, they are roughly around the same. I think Deeding has like 10 or 20% more damage, as long as she lands her S1 3 times. This is not including if she were to then proc any of these off of her S3. So just her S1 alone landing 3 times at cap is going to be right around the same damage as Deeding's ult, but it does not account for Deeding having that extra 60% stats into his crit rate, whether that ends up going into crit damage or not for you. Realistically though, the max amount of times you're probably ever going to see her S1s fly off is probably going to be 6 times. Now that is a really low chance. You have to roll the dice and get lucky a lot of times, but it can happen, and in those scenarios, if she is high rolling a lot, she is going to do a lot of damage. And then finally her S3, this is more of an enabler than anything else. I don't think there's anything too crazy about it. She purifies all debuffs from herself. She'll gain a 2-turn crit buff, and then she'll deal 3 hits of 120% to all enemies, so 360% total, with a 50% chance now to inflict a 2-turn defense break on all enemies. I don't know what this looks like at base level as far as the dispel on herself, because it says on level 3, so that's 2 lattices deep. The purifying effect can now dispel all debuffs, so not sure what it is not going to include. Before you at least throw in the extra 2 there. This is the one I think that you can probably safely skip, especially if you are going to run her with gear that is already setting her to 100% crit rate, or you have another reliable crit rate buff. As because this is a 3-turn cooldown, she's not going to have full uptime, but we'll get into a second. If you have Lily, then it doesn't really matter nearly as much. So this is one where you could probably skip out on the lattices, but at least the other 2, she is pretty hungry. She wants at least the 4 again in her S1, or the 3 again in her S1, and then she wants this capped out, so another 4 here. So 7 total at least to make sure that you're at least playing her remotely optimally. All right, we're going to pop over to my browser now so we can go over shell suggestions, because she is going to be doing a lot of hits. So this brings up 2 important shells that come to mind. which are both coming up in an update here. A fixed inconsistency between the buff tips and skill description for the shells Golden Lion and Revelation. Yeah, so Golden Lion here on cap, or when it is awakened, every 2 times the Animus uses a skill, so she's going to rack up a lot of skill uses. Every 2 times she uses one skill, she increases her final damage by 5% and effect accuracy by 7%, up to 8 stacks. So that's 40% damage and I don't know, a lot of effect accuracy. So this shell does help fuel her landing, her defense break on her S3, and it is a lot of damage amp right there. And then we look at Revelation. I don't know what the bug fix is going to change. We'll have to wait and see. This is the only one I'm really familiar with, which is Revelation, which is the other shell I would suggest, unless we know damage calcs. I don't know which one is actually going to be better. I feel like Golden Lion is essentially going to be pretty damn good on her, so I'd probably just go for that. But if you already have like a Revelation lying around, then it's going to be perfect just to slap on her. But before the user's turn, each crit dealt by the user will deal an additional 12% of true damage to the target's max HP, and total damage per hit cannot exceed 180% of your own attack. Again, this is going to be per hit. This is 12% true damage of their max HP. This is going to be insanely good, especially when she pops off and goes a little crazy. That is a lot of damage to be gained out of Revelation there. Currently in game, the tooltip is that it is I believe the effect of Revelation is completely unchanged, but it does state that there is only a 40% chance that it will actually activate. So if that ends up becoming the actual effect of Revelation come this new patch, or maybe it already happened, I'm not sure. I'll have to, let me take a look. All right, Sharon, you old bitch, just don't CC my boy or immediately kill him. Okay, here we go. We finally got into a fight. Let's see. Okay, they changed it. Thank you. Okay, the patch already happened. The 40% tooltip is gone. Thank God. All right, scratch all that. We're good. Revelation or Golden Lion. If you already have one built, use that. If not, maybe Golden Lion, maybe Rev. I think Golden Lion might squeak it out, but if you end up proccing a lot of hits, then Revelation might end up overtaking it. All right, going over her sets, let's start off with the most crucial, in my opinion. You can consider Bramble if you really want. I don't think that you should, but Battle Will at the 8 set effect, 20% chance to launch a follow-up. That just means more skill spamming. Great for Revelation, great for Golden Lion, great for her in general. I don't know if this is actually going to count towards that diminishing chance on her passive. So if a Battle Will procs, does that count as like reducing the next trigger by the 40%? Not entirely sure. But by the way that the passive is worded, I assume that it will, but at least this should just be a little more additional chance that you do even more follow-ups, plus some additional attack. And because that is an 8P set, I think it would pair perfectly with Keen Eye. Keen Eye giving crit damage, and the first 3 instances of damage dealt is going to be increased by 25%, then the next hit is 15, and then 5. On average, once you have her S2 maxed out, you should, for the most hits, you should be doing all 3 attacks, and her ult is going to trigger all procs of the Keen Eye. Depending on your team comp, momentum is usually almost always going to be one of your best options. So if you are going to run her with a heavy debuff team, momentum is going to go crazy, as it does on everybody. And then if not, I would also suggest Fury, but Fury is more so, I think, only going to overtake, say, Keen Eye if it does end up triggering her passive like multiple times, not just like the 3. As for general stats, you can aim for at least 70% crit rate if you plan on keeping up her crit buff or somebody else's crit buff, the entire time. Otherwise, you definitely want to go for that full 100%, because the moment she doesn't crit, she's complete trash. So yeah, definitely want to hit at least the 70% or the 100% depending on your setup. And then of course just crit damage and attack. So overall, should you pull for her? Well, if you're free to play, I would probably say no. There are a few caveats to this. One, if you have a Lily, which I mean, I feel like it's a moot point if I bring it up with any DPS. If you have Lily, it's going to make them a monster. But if you have Lily, it makes her that much more insane. I believe she's going to be able to start a new chain of attacks with Lily on her S1 especially. Basically turning her into a Gatling gun, so very high potential damage output there. But at the end of the day, she's just another single target DPS when we already, or at least most people hopefully already have Deeding. And if you end up having to hit Pity, as you can only, if you're free to play, you're most likely only having, just a bunch of gems you're sitting on. 3K for a multi is a lot. And I can't say for certain. We'll definitely have to wait and see information as she comes out. If anybody comes up with any crazy teams or any crazy builds for her, that will end up trivializing any type of content. But as it currently stands, I don't think that she's going to help most people push into any form of Inferno content. And at the moment, I think that that is very, very important. Not only that, but as a free-to-play, I already went over it before, but she is incredibly lattice hungry. Again, you need at least 4 into her passive. Any lower than that, and you potentially are going to whiff, at least even on guaranteeing the second hit, and her damage is going to go to complete shit. And then her S1, again, it's not going to be like the biggest damage drop-off. I assume that she's going to start off with 200% damage, but considering that she's going to want to fire off multiple of these, an extra 40% damage is going to be pretty game-changing for her. So she's a very expensive LD. She wants Lily, but who doesn't? She is very lattice hungry. I don't think she's game-changing enough that you should burn, however much. If you end up having to go to pity, I think it's like 24k gems. Then last, even looking at a PvP scenario, she's just a single target nuke. I don't think she's really going to provide much there whatsoever. The only thing I could say is if maybe silence ever becomes a problem in PvP, a Lily S1 could potentially proc her off and then nuke somebody just off of an S1 with Lily going first. But once you get to higher ranks, Lily's probably going to be banned for the most part anyway, so overall, I don't think she's worth it. If you're a whale, you do you. But if you're a free-to-play, I think burning all those gems and then deciding to then not be able to refresh stamina anymore, or at least save for other characters, we're probably going to get new RGBs again in the upcoming week, then I say that she is 100% not worth it, but with the caveat of we'll have to wait and see when she comes out. People are very creative. People are very smart. They might make us some crazy teams that end up cheesing out certain content. And if that's the case and that is going to be beneficial to your account, then yeah, I'd go for it. That is all. I've got to go find this dog. I don't know where she went. So thanks for watching. Take care, and see you in the next one.